COVID. Yeah. Southern Missouri there. Yeah. I have some friends.
Technology again at its best. Can't get it to work the way it needs to work.
Yeah.
Kind of like my iPad for work today. It's like, will you just do what I want you to do? It would be so much easier for all of us.
Pam, have you got $5 million on hand here? You got to be signing.
Yeah, right in my back pocket.
Where-
Did you want some?
we're at
I'll share.
6:30.
She's got one of those big checks
I'll
Yeah,
share.
for that.
Yeah, let me know.
got to come up with $5 million here.
Mayor, did you hear from George? Is he?
I did.
No, he's on vacation.
He's in Pennsylvania.
All right. Well, then explain it.
Kids.
Yeah, we're good to go.
Okay, we will do the regular meeting of the Tracy City Council for August 9th. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nobody wants to pray for us anymore.
We might get lots of prayers, Mayor. We just don't know it, perhaps.
Do we have any changes to the agenda before we approve it?
We do. We have a few items to change tonight. On 4, we do not have the Employee of the Year because Peggy is on vacation. So we won't have that portion of it, but we will have the Employee of the Quarter. We also have on the consent calendar, we added 7D, which is the approval of the library minutes from the April 1st, 2021 Library Board meeting. And then on 10A3, we want to remove that budget amendment. A couple of reasons. Jeff's sick, and ultimately because of that we couldn't get all the material together and he couldn't be here tonight. So it's not time sensitive. We'll do it in the future.
Okay.
That's it.
With those corrections, do we have somebody that will approve the agenda?
Motion to approve is amended.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will move right on to the Employee of the Quarter then.
Excellent.
I will read a little thing about this employee. It says, tonight we are announcing the 2021 Employee of the Second Quarter. This person is Diane Campbell. Diane's nomination said that she is a great listener and communicator, is the organization of the city, and goes out of her way to be helpful and cordial to people. Tonight we are pleased to honor Diane with a certificate of appreciation and a $25 gift certificate. Thank you, Diane, for all your hard work. Come on up here, darling.
We need to take a picture with the City Council.
I should
And I'd like to say a couple
walk
words
chair.
too as Diane's supervisor. When you want me to say that something now, or do you want to wait until after the picture?
You can do it now.
It was kind of amusing because Diane usually does these certificates, so she kept asking me, "Where's the certificate? Where's the certificate? We need that certificate." And that I thought was kind of amusing, and so she probably guessed that it was her. But Diane keeps everybody organized, and you got to have somebody like Diane for that reason. Aloha Night, I don't think would have been pulled off without her, and so that's the other thing. We were talking about this earlier tonight too, is that she oftentimes your needs are met for whatever thing you need, whether it be an agenda packet or something, and you don't even realize it. She just knows and does it. And so that's what's great about Diane, and I'm real happy that that the department heads voted her employee of the second quarter for 2021. So thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Okay, honey, come on up here.
Come around this side, then we're balanced again.
Shoot, I would have.
You can stay right there.
Cheater.
Are all of us getting in?
Did we all last time?
Yeah, I think everybody got in it. Yep. We never want everybody in it.
You love it. I spent 30 years on this side of the camera.
Yeah, back up.
Sorry, I need to squeeze in a bit.
No, you're fine. Okay, there we go. 1, 2, 3. Oop, I'm taking the video.
That'll be interesting in the paper.
It's the Hogwarts paper.
It's a moving paper this week.
Here, let Seth do it.
Are they filming the camera?
I apologize. Ready? 1, 2, 3. There we go.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Diane.
Don't spend it all in one spot. That too.
Not seeing anybody in the audience. On to the consent calendar.
I'll do my usual. Approval of the July 26th and July 28th minutes. Approve the municipal accounts payable and payroll without breakthrough beverage. Approval of the planning commission minutes from April 5th. Approve the library minutes from April 1st. And approve the correction of the Boxcar Day street closures.
First and second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Goodman.
Yes.
Hell.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Jones.
Aye.
Teagues.
Aye.
Mayor Cronin.
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve the municipal accounts payable for breakthrough beverage.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Hell.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Mayor Cronin.
Aye. Does anybody have anything for mayor council communication?
I just want to say that was a kudos to everyone who worked on Night Out. That was a great night. Good to see the crowds, and especially all the families and kids in the park.
I know, I'm sorry I missed that.
Any idea how many people were there? And or burgers that they served or anything?
I got there probably 20 minutes or so 30 minutes after it started, and they'd already served 400 at that point, but I don't know how many total they served.
That's a lot, that's great.
There were a lot of people there.
I'm sure there were easily in the hundreds.
Perfect.
See, think about if you have that movie after the National Night Out.
We considered that, but we decided that was too much.
Yeah.
Kids.
Given what's happening. Yeah, I mean, I think that would potentially be a great thing to do next year. You bet.
One other thing about that, I'm happy. I mean, that we have a big central park that can accommodate all these people. And I was really especially pleased to see that there was a pickup baseball game with boys and girls going on in the old ball diamond. And it's been a while since I've seen that. So, a very good, successful night.
Was.
And Oahu.
Aloha.
Yeah. The pool party was,
That was fantastic too.
That was
Yes,
cute.
I heard some neighbors told me that apparently they could hear the karaoke outside of the pool. So that was always entertaining. So I guess it was entertainment for the whole neighborhood. But no, it was a good event. I think we had around 60 people there. And our hope is that we'll do this again next year and get even a larger attendance. I think a lot of folks didn't know exactly what to expect, but I think everybody had a great time. It certainly was a lot of fun for
It
us.
was fun. Anybody else have anything? Okay, do you want to do your?
Sure, I can start with my staff report. I've just a couple of little things to go over. One is that on Wednesday and Thursday, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Shane, but Wednesday and Thursday is when we're going to be doing the seal coating on the streets. So we've been publicizing it a little bit. The map for where it's happening is on the website, and we also posted it on Facebook. But ultimately, we really need to have everybody to have their cars off of the streets on Wednesday and Thursday, because you can't seal coat those streets, with cars on there, and we'll end up having to bring the police in and move some cars, and it's just not good for anybody under those circumstances. So Wednesday and Thursday, we're seal coating a lot of streets around town. Most of the streets that are not already new because of the street project are getting a seal coat. So just be prepared for that. And that, I believe, will conclude the summer street maintenance program. The street project will continue on after that. But that's coming up just as a PSA. You want to talk about that, Shane?
I can touch on it a little bit too. So to help everybody out, tomorrow they will be posting no parking signs on all it's going to be the FA2 area. It's just a smaller rock. There's an FA2 and FA3 on the map. I'll post a little clearer map. They actually redid it for me because they had one of their maintenance people on that were colorblind, so they had to change the colors on it. But their map's a little clearer to read than the one I made up with the highlighter. But I'll get that posted out on Facebook, and then I'm also going to have Adam put out a Nixle alert too for the people that don't have Facebook too, just so we can get the word out the best we can. And then we may have a few, hopefully not, but we may have a few individuals we'll have to deal with that day. But the day before, so on Wednesday, they're going to post no parking signs on all the area that they're going to do Wednesday. On Tuesday, which will be tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, they'll post no parking signs for their work on Thursday. So that should give people a clear idea on where the seal coating will happen. So it's 2 days. They're going to do the one rock one day, and then the bigger rock the next day. So.
And Shane, I assume that people need to make a special point of not having their garbage can in the street also?
Yeah. Yeah.
Will they be ticketed if left in the street?
I don't think they'll have enough time to do that, but
I
they, likely end up be pushing them up in people's driveways or whatever if we need to. But yeah, if they can keep it on top of their curb or whatever, that would be ideal. So.
Shane, when can people drive on the roads?
They can drive on them pretty much immediately. So following. So.
Did that get posted on that Concerned Citizens of Tracy site that they have?
I'm sure someone will.
If we post it on the city, they usually repost all of our stuff.
Usually somebody will share
They'll do it? Okay.
our posts on there. So they did last time. Last week we had the crack sealer showed up a day early, so it was kind of a mess. But but that portion of it's done. I'd say we got people to move. Jason had to go through. He spent probably a couple hours trying to get cars off the roads in the areas that we needed to seal or crack seal. But I'd say we made it through it. But seal coating's going to be a lot bigger area, and a lot more roads being affected. So Thursday it's going to be everything south of the tracks on Thursday for sure. And then in town it's kind of a mixture of things. If it hasn't been part of the phase 1, 3A1 or 3A2 areas, or none of them areas will be touched, but most of the rest of the town will be. So
Looking good so far. And all the crack sealing and stuff, and the paving that you guys have done and that they've done, looking good.
trying to level it out the best we can before they get here. But
I like it.
we're doing a little bit more tomorrow. Probably get a couple loads in tomorrow, and there's a few alleys downtown that's got a few little holes we want to fill in yet, but yeah, getting to the end of it. So
Nice work.
any other questions?
The only other thing, and then I'll kind of run through real quick my written report, which I emailed to you over the weekend, but I was asked by a staff member today, and can be a controversial issue, but I want to kind of seek your advice on this. But of course, we don't have any mask mandates or any requirements anymore. The governor or anybody doesn't require it, and our position has always been that we want to follow the law. However, Lyon County is now considered to be a high transmission county, and the question arose today by a staff member: should we post on the outside of buildings that it is a high transmission, county, and that the CD recommends indoor mask use on a voluntary basis? This mask issue has become so politicized. I'm reluctant to do it, without a specific order, from the governor saying, that we have to do certain things. That's always been our position. We follow what the law says, But I can see the point of we have a certain obligation for, public health and safety at the same time. And so I wanted to seek your thoughts on how you feel about, posting a sign, not a mandatory sign, but just a sign that says something like it's, the CDC recommends it on a voluntary basis.
I personally don't think posting something like that's going to hurt anybody. If you want to wear a mask pretty much now, I think you're wearing it and not.
Yeah, which is not very many people right now, but yeah.
So I can't see where it hurts anything to post it. It's just a reminder to some people to pay attention to some stuff.
How does staff feel about it?
I've only talked to one staff member about it. I'm sure that the person that brought it up to me, and I haven't polled them. It just came up today, and ultimately,
I don't know if there's a need to post anything. I mean, it's voluntary for any employee. If they want to wear one,
right,
they can wear one. Still have the protective barriers up for them, correct, when they are?
We've taken those down for the most part because they're no longer required. Which is another consideration. We could put some of that back up again. That may not be a bad idea.
That could be an option. So it safeguards both ways.
Yep.
But it's still voluntary. I guess I am not going to sit here and dig my heels in and say no sign. Like Dave said.
Doesn't hurt anything.
Doesn't hurt. People are going to wear one if they want, and they're not if they don't. But I guess I'm looking at it more from, if employees are concerned, maybe then that's what we need to look at, is more what we can do to protect them, because we're not going to make it mandatory that people wear masks.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, we're not, and we can't. I mean, that's not the law, and I think that's outside of our, ability to do currently. Yeah.
But if an employee feels better if they're one that is face to face with the public, if they feel safer, if there would be the protective plastic. I mean, is that something? I don't remember. Were they just easily portable that you could take off?
We still have all the stuff that we're not using anyway. I mean, you never know what's going to happen with this thing. It's not something you'd throw away under the circumstances, So
I think Dave's idea is good. And I think we have a certain obligation to educate the public, and some people might not be aware that Lyon County has risen to a moderate risk area, so I would go along with Dave's suggestion.
And I agree with Jerry. So
Yeah, I don't think
do what you feel necessary. I think is the ultimate.
Well, and I appreciate that. Normally I would, but this issue has been so politicized. I would be worried about citizens coming back to you and saying, "Oh, well, I can't believe you did that," that kind of thing.
We're not making it mandatory.
No, certainly not.
It's just an informational sign.
I don't know if I want to put on there that Lyon County is whatever risk level, because that can change.
Yep.
So then we'd have to be watching and adjusting our signage according to that.
Right.
But
Go generic.
We could go generic and just say, CDC recommends indoor mask use. Enter your own risk.
but masks are not required.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But it probably is not a bad idea to put those shields back up there.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I hadn't considered that point, but maybe we should do that. You know, so okay.
Does anybody in Tracy has very many people in Tracy? Jerry, I suppose you probably.
She
probably
can't.
That's not something I don't think she could share.
Well,
Has
I would
anybody
rather,
heard of anybody in Tracy?
Well,
I would rather err on the side of informing people and protecting people rather than worrying about upsetting someone.
Yep. Okay, that's how we'll proceed. I appreciate your advice on that. That's helpful. This report, which is our project report, a few things that I want to point out. We're working on the comprehensive plan. We have over 300 responses to the survey at this point. We anticipate cutting that off on the 13th of August. And at that point, we'll do some focus groups as well as at the end of August. We'll probably have a community meeting or two, but that'll be most of our public input portion of the comprehensive plan, and that's going to be moving forward here pretty soon. At some point, when we get all of the data on the survey compiled, we'll bring back the answers to the results of that to City Council. It's pretty interesting so far, and I think it will provide some information on the community center issue too, and so it might be something for the community center work group because we asked people about what facilities they use and things like that. And so look for that coming forward. The website, I've been updating it a little piece at a time. We will have the new website up by the end of this month. It's just been a little tedious, and the budget has gotten in the way of me working on that a little bit. But it is coming relatively quickly. The historical survey, the draft is done. You're going to see the final version of that in September. They are recommending that we have that we pursue potentially some studies to look at a historic district downtown, which would allow us to access some monies for all of downtown, as well as further explore Central Park and City Hall and the VMC. And I had said previously, and I don't remember if it was in what context it was, that it was just City Hall and not the VMC, but they're actually talking about the City Hall and the VMC together. So it would be the entire complex. We would need to do a little more intensive work on that and probably apply for another grant, but this is the kind of thing that won't cost us more than a couple $1,000s once you get the grant. And so hopefully once that happens, then we could apply for some money maybe as early as next year. We just in terms of infrastructure, you got a little bit of that earlier, but Lyon County sent us, we've been waiting for some kind of written confirmation that Lyon County is committing money for Center Street reconstruction, which we received this last week. They're going to put $1.8 million into that project, which is fantastic. And so between the money that we had for the street project and the money from Lyon County, we're looking at reconstructing all of Center Street between the railroad tracks and Highway 14 next summer. And so we really think that's a well-traveled road, and it's not in good condition at all. And so that'll continue our focus on streets here in the city. I think probably. One more note. The park board, the committee basically is going to have a tour this coming Friday, and so we're going to start meeting with that group as we go around parks and look at get some feedback from them, and eventually we'll bring their recommendations back to you, probably in September, maybe October, something like that. But those are the highlights for folks. And are there any questions about this, work plan report or anything you want to know about? Seeing none, the next item is budget estimates, and I'm going to have Krista come up. We're going to kind of tag team this. The charter actually mandates that the first meeting in August that the city staff provide for the city council at the direction of the mayor budget estimates for 2022. And so I know we've already had a couple of meetings about this, but we want to give a kind of a high-level overview as a follow-up to our study session for two reasons. One, because the charter requires it, but second of all, because we think it's important for the public to hear some of this information too. So there won't be, this will be really, really high level, but ultimately that's why we're seeing this. And with that, I'm going to turn Krista over to talk about kind of the numbers, and then I've got another handout that I gave you on the capital improvement plan as a follow-up from last week. And so Krista's going to go first.
So on the handout, I apologize for not getting that out to you guys sooner. The first section is just really a comparison from 2021 budget to 2022 preliminary estimates for sources of funds. So this includes revenues, any kind of bond payments to help, or bond revenues or bond money to help pay for the street maintenance, or not the street maintenance, the street projects, the pond decommissioning and Center Street, things like that. So at this point in our kind of prelim estimates, we are increasing our sources of funds by 24.4%. Again, just a reminder, these are really very preliminary estimates, so we still have a lot of review that we're going to do. Eric and I have some work to look through a lot of things. Any questions off of that for now that kind of jump out?
What's in the intergovernment revenue?
So that would include federal, state, and local grants and aid that we receive.
What? Why is it up so much? 27% almost.
The biggest piece of that would be for the grants for the street projects.
How does LGA look for next year? What local government aid?
Yep, it was in line with what we were thinking, and I can't remember what the total was off the top of my head.
It's up $20,000. It's like 1%.
Okay, so modest.
Modest, very modest increase. We get just short of $1 million. And that number, up 24%, may look like a big number. Mostly that's because of the bond expenditures that we're making on the street project and the grants. We did assume a 7% increase in the tax levy, which is reflected in the first line item there. And you might be wondering, well, why is it 6%, 6.5%, not 7%? Well, there's actually some other taxes that we collect that were not part of that discussion. So like the cable franchise fee, for example, is in that, and that's not going up. But these numbers do assume that 7% increase, but it's only the 7% increase on those general taxes, and that's it. Mostly it's going up because of that additional money that we're spending out of our bonds.
Is that the supplemental number too?
That is a supplemental number.
Gotcha.
Yep.
The supplemental number includes things like bond expenditures.
Yep.
It's not really a revenue. It's revenue we already booked when we received the bonds, but it's money we're spending.
Yeah, I thought that. I'm just making sure again.
So the second section at the bottom of the front page are our consolidated operating expenditures. So right now we're just looking at personnel services, supplies, and services and charges. Our preliminary estimates have that total decreasing by 7% for 2022. Personnel services, that increase of almost 5% includes the 2.5% COLA, any step increases that employees would see throughout the year, and then also any increases to insurance, work comp insurance, and then training is also included in that personnel services budget. Questions there at all? On the back page, I have listed the 2022 debt service payments. So we are looking at about 1.35 million in debt service payments that we'll be making in 2022. And then each of the bonds is listed there, broken out. And then the bottom section is our 2022 capital improvement plan. Including in the budget 6.5 million for the Phase 3A street project. That'll be the pond decommissioning and Central Street. And then if we have anything extra that we can do, it's included in that as well. And then the capital projects, which Eric will talk more about those projects.
What's the latest on the pond decommissioning?
Latest is that we had to get the written confirmation from the county that they were going to participate so that the USDA Rural Development would, which is what they asked for, and now they have to approve us, which they've verbally said that they would, but they have to go through a process to approve us changing the project parameters from the original Phase 3 and Phase 4. Once they do that, then we can go and go out to bid on that project. And so we're basically stuck in the federal bureaucracy at the moment, but it'll get done. There has been some discussion, well, we want to try to get this done in the fall because farmers will take it in the fall, et cetera, and we agree with that. We're just stuck because they have to approve the project, which if they don't, we would lose all of our federal grants, and we can't afford to do that, so we have to wait on their timetable. So we're kind of, and we have these bidding requirements, these federal government requirements for bidding these kinds of contracts. So our goal is to try to get it bid this fall, but we probably won't do anything on it till next year unless it happens really, really quickly. So that's kind of where we're at.
So if we get, let's say we get approval by September 1st, do we have to do like a month for bids, or can we do it?
Yeah, it is going to be something like that.
Is it all their rules?
Yes, it's all the federal purchasing rules.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we have to follow all the federal purchasing rules because we're using federal monies, and it has to be Davis-Bacon compliant and a whole bunch of things. It's really it'd take like a month and a half to actually put out the bid packet and advertise it and all of that stuff. So even if we did it today, we wouldn't be looking at doing bids until late September, approving bids until September or October anyway, and then we're kind of into the fall. So even I know people are anxious to get moving, and I am too. It looks like it's going to be a project that'll probably be done next fall with bidding this fall, because we don't want to do it in the spring because we're going to land apply all of the waste material from decades of Tracy sewer waste on farmers' fields, and we don't want to put that on in the spring because that's when they plant. So we have to wait until they harvest and then put it out there in the fall is what it amounts to. So if it were any old field, that would be fine, but it doesn't work to put it out there in the middle of the summer or the spring.
But the MPCA is satisfied with our progress.
The MPCA is satisfied with their project process, but they also need to still, I don't think they've approved, Shane, they have not approved our land apply plan yet, the MPCA? No, we're still waiting for them to approve our land apply plan too, which is another, so we're dealing with the federal government bureaucracy on the purchasing and the project scope, as well as the state bureaucracy hasn't approved our land apply plan, so we couldn't even do the project if we wanted to because we don't have approval for the MPCA. Yes. So, love it. This is crazy, but we have basically until the spring of 2023 to finish this project. So we're right where we need to be. We'll get it done. It's not going to happen until next year.
Why did I ask?
Well, it's good. You should ask. It's good information for people to know because they're like, what happened to that project? Well, it takes a long time. So, are you ready for me to go over the capital part of it?
I think so. Any other questions on the first part for me?
So this long spreadsheet, that I have in front of you, and I apologize for the small print. My eyes don't like it either. What I did is that the staff had their top 10 projects, and I want to. There's one thing I want to say first. There are like 40 capital projects on this list. Every single one of these is something that the staff thought that they needed. Not that we want or would be nice to have, but something we actually need. And so when we start talking about ranking our top 10 or cutting this project down list, it's basically we're going to be cutting projects that we actually need to have. I know that we've been talking about how we're going to pay for all this stuff and what kind of tax levy do we have to make that happen, et cetera, and things like that. And so I wanted to start out by talking about that. I'm going to walk through this because what we did is, of course, we ranked the staff rankings. And so each project, you can see what the staff ranking was 1 through 10. And then you can see what the city council ranking was and how many dots each one of those projects had as well. And I'm going to go through these kind of one at a time. We don't need to discuss it tonight because we're going to have a budget. We can, if you'd like, but ultimately we're going to have a budget discussion about this also on the 15th of September. But I wanted to give this to you a little bit ahead of time so you have some time to think about it and digest it. But I'm going to go through these one at a time. The first list, and this assumes the 7% tax levy increase. Okay. If it's less than that, obviously we can do less. The first list under the blue is what we're proposing that we do, which includes $286,000 in capital projects in 2022. Now, not all of that is the tax levy. We have some fund balance money. We have about $90,000 that we have in the capital improvement fund now that is not spoken for that we could use for projects. We have $58,000 in money from the ARPA COVID money relief funds that we can spend on these projects. And we have $30,000 or so that we can roll over from the park project that we didn't, because we didn't get the grant. And if we don't spend that money this year, we can roll that over to next year. And so this it only includes about $90,000 in tax revenue. Most of it is just the money that we have from other sources for 2022. So the number one project on your list and the staff list was turnout gear for the fire department. We generally buy those every year because they expire. We bought about this much this year. The second thing on the list, your third priority and the staff's second priority is police cars. We had already delayed a police car a year. We were scheduled to buy one in 2021, and we delayed it to 2022. Jason's plan included 3 police cars in this time frame, but what we're suggesting is that we do 2 when we push one of them into from 26 to 27. 1 year won't hurt us in terms of delaying it. The next item on the list, which was your fourth priority and the staff's third, is the cat load or Terex combination. This is equipment we use for snow removal and a variety of other applications. We have a piece of equipment that is more than 50 years old that we are currently using, and that's what this is. Ultimately, it's to replace a 50-year-old piece of equipment. The next item, which is not scheduled to happen in 2022, but we're looking at doing in 2023, is the pool liners. Staff's third priority and your fourth priority. We're going to investigate a grant for that. We have some ideas. Specifically, we want to look at maybe doing in 2023 requesting a DNR grant. Now, normally they don't fund a lot of things like pools, but one of the things that we noticed was that they like to fund projects related to handicap accessibility. And so our thought is, well, maybe there's some things that we can do to improve accessibility, like, for example, an at-grade entrance to the big pool. Well, and if we change the grade on one side of the pool, we'd need a new pool liner, wouldn't we? And so if we could go out and get a 50-50 grant, maybe it costs less doing that than it would be just a brand new pool liner. Just an idea that we're kicking around, but we are going to have a consultant come out and look at the pool and do an audit on handicap accessibility, which is what we did at the library, incidentally, because when we put the lifts in, and that helped us get the grant for that. And so it's a thought at this point. We're trying to figure out how we can reduce that cost, because $350,000 is a lot of money. It's a lot of money. But it was a priority for both you and the staff, and so it's on the list. This does not assume a grant. It assumes we pay for 100% of it, but I just wanted to let you know we're exploring that option. Airbags is on the list in 2022 for the fire department. A new dump truck, which is a priority for both you and the staff. Your fourth priority in 2025. I kept the Central Park improvements on there because we have $30,000 we can roll over and try again for the grant next year, and the thought is then we can maximize that money. So I put a little extra in there just for inflation, but ultimately that's what that is. And books at the library, which is a capital improvement, but it's such a small amount. We felt that even though it didn't necessarily prioritize as high as some others, it's a small amount, so we keep it on there. Any questions? That's $900,000 in the next 5 years. Any questions on that? The next item is items that we think we can actually pay for in our maintenance budget, rather than have to have a separate tax levy for capital improvements. They include the items at the pool that we need to do next year, the splash pool boiler and the check valve and suction grates. That's a safety issue. Both of those things are. New furnace at the fire hall, a thermal camera for the fire department, some portable radios for the police department, and some rescue tools. All this stuff is kind of small enough that we can put it in some other line items, and so we think we can also purchase those, another $54,000 worth of equipment. The next set of items under the blue, which is $1.8 million worth of projects, is projects that we need, but we're not going to be able to do in the next 5 years unless something changes. The first set are things that were priority projects for the staff and for you and the city council, but we pushed some of them off. One police cruiser, so rather than buying it 26, we push it off to 27. The Jaws of Life, again, we pushed that a year. The airport mower, we're going to try to get a grant for, and we'll see how that goes. And so we think that's important, but we're going to push that off for the same reason.
Eric, a question on the airport mowing. Are we required to mow everything that we mow now around the airport?
I believe so, but I'll have Shane answer that question definitively.
So are you asking, like, the current grass that we're cutting?
I mean, is it possible to reduce the amount of grass that we mow, or is that just pretty much?
It's possible, but then a couple different things. So for wildlife mitigation, they want the grass to be between 6 and 12 inches tall. Our current mowers, any of the mowers we use right now, they can't, 4, maybe 5 inches if you put enough spacers in them, is about as high as we can get. So that was one of the reasons for a new mower, other than ours is obviously getting a new engine put in it right now. But that was one portion. The other thing is obstacles. Generally, you got tall grass and you just kind of let it grow. You get trees and everything else growing up in there, and then that's another battle you end up with. And then the runways, a lot of that area are taxiways that we're currently mowing. They have to be right around no more than 6 inches for planes to land on, because it gets too much resistance when they land and take off otherwise. So the only other thing where the AWAS is slated to put in, that's going to go to partially farmland, and we're actually taking away part of the farmland out there because of the AWAS setbacks for corn. There's a big circle out there now, but so part of that will end up not having to mow anymore because of the runway closure. But so that did help us out a little bit. But
Okay, thank you.
does that answer your question?
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Big job.
The last item on that category, which is priority projects, is the city hall maintenance. That may change, moving into the future. I think I had relayed to you earlier tonight that we're looking at trying to get a historic designation for City Hall. If we are able to get that, then we would want to apply for a grant from the Minnesota State Historical Society. Those grants are usually pretty healthy, 75-80% match. If we're able to apply for and get a grant like that, you might want to repurpose some of that money then at that point and reprioritize that $100,000. But since we don't know about that yet, either whether we can get that designation or whether, and therefore that grant, we just slid it down to this category. So it's still on a list, it's just not on the priority list at the moment. So every year you'll want to redo this list and based on the conditions that you're at. And that's one that we would want to reevaluate next year. The next items are things that basically didn't get much of a priority from anybody. And just for the record, I'll say what those things are that we're not going to be doing in the next 5 years because we can't afford them. Street sweeper, some parks mowers. We have a 1977 Dodge pickup that we're going to keep using. We really need a used backhoe. Probably the airport hangars. Another pickup. Our John Deere tractor. These are all things that Public Works uses, for things like snow removal and things like that. We're just going to keep maintaining them. There's some smaller items on the list we might end up doing anyway. We might need to get a new server, but it's such a small amount. Server, copy machines. There's some airport projects that we're going to push out past 2026. Some of the runway extension and runway reconstructions that need to happen, but we're going to be pushing those off. Some additional maintenance at the pool in terms of some of the pool features and painting and things like that. Some equipment in the fire department, a trailer, some radios, backup generators, computers at the library, a roof at the library, bathroom remodeling and floor finishing at the library, office remodel for the police, computers in the police. Sometimes these computers we could probably get in anyway in some cases, and so because they're such a small amount. The next item on the list is community center. We do have $138,000 that is reserved for that currently, and so that money is still sitting there. So that is not projected to be spent until you determine what you want to do about that. But right now, that project is not prioritized. And until you decide what you want to do with that money, it will just sit there. And then some additional work at the airport. So that's $1.8 million worth of projects that will not be done according to this plan in the next 5 years. Any questions about that? So that's pretty much the gist of it. We've got a lot more refining, as Krista said, to do in the budget. We want to be cognizant of the fact that these are times where costs and prices are going up for everybody, and we recognize that has an impact on people's budgets and their ability to pay their taxes. I also want to point out that the city faces the same pressures in terms of the cost of fuel and our mandatory increases on because of our union contract on some of our employment costs, and so we're facing some of the same issues as everybody else is. But we want to reduce as much as we can unnecessary expenditures which is why you're gonna see some additional, cuts most likely, in expenses, compared to where you see here. And what you saw in front of you anyway is actually spending less than last year. The intent and the direction that I got from you is we want to do some capital projects because we don't want to kick the can down the road. And so that is the purpose for the tax levy, and not about additional staff or anything like that. It really is about the equipment and the facilities that we need to provide good services for the citizens. And so you'll see a lot more in the budget workshop coming up on September 15th. But this is kind of a preview of where we're at today. Any questions? Thank you. That's all we have on that. We have two next items on new business, Mayor. Can we go there? We have pay app number 4 for the Phase 3A2 street project. Shane, you want to talk about this?
Yeah. This is a monthly progress pay app for Phase 3A2. I don't know if you have any questions on that or how that project's going at all. Obviously, most of you noticed they tore into Morgan Street here late last week. They plan on getting that graded and put back in, at least the gravel here. It sounded like maybe this week, once they get the utilities in there, make all the connections, and they're gonna start grading all of 6th Street the way it sounded. So, and then as far as paving goes, they're going to be doing that here, the first phase of it, within the next week or so, the way it sounded. But
Are they ahead of their schedule of what they kind of thought this year?
yeah, I think they are. Weather's been perfect for them.
Right.
If you're growing anything, it's not been perfect, but for them, it's been good. So.
Any new issues?
No, other than the asbestos pipe issues, we found an 8-inch storm sewer over at the church coming out of the school that we had to hook up, so we had to add a manhole, but nothing crazy.
Good.
So far. You have any questions on this pay app?
Make a motion to approve resolution 2021-73 for the Phase 3A2 payout of number 4.
I'll second it.
First and second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Teagues,
Aye.
Towle,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Koopman,
Yes.
Mayor Peterson. Oh, I'm sorry, Seth.
Yes.
Mayor Peterson. Or Mayor. Foreman.
We might take away your employee of the quarter for
I
that.
know. You
I wouldn't sign that thing.
You probably should. I said it twice.
Aye for me.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Corman. The next item is 2 weeks ago we had amended the code to allow, under a permit system, for alcohol consumption on city property and public places. This is not related to selling of alcohol, so that's a separate license and things like that. This is more if you is that did you?
Why it's making that?
I'm gonna tell you, council member, that if there's something else in there, it's a $25 fee once you pass this.
Smell it, it's water.
I thought you were trying to make a point. This is just like if you wanted to have a family reunion and have beers in the park or something like that. You'd have to get a permit from us that you would approve, and this is just to add a $25 fee for the processing of that. Which, without that in the permit schedule or the fee schedule, we wouldn't be able to do that. And so Diane's been putting together a very extensive application, but ultimately we recognize that this is not something that you would want to do lightly, which is why we want to have a fee and why we want to have an application and all of that stuff. So that's all this is just that fee.
Also includes a violation if they don't get the permit.
Oh, my fault. Yes, I forgot about that. It also includes a violation, and it's just an administrative fine of $100 if they don't get the permit. So if Jason goes out there and catches them and they're not doing something they're supposed to do, it's $100.
Does 25 seem a little high if somebody wants to have a family reunion and have a couple beers?
Nope, I don't think so.
No?
Yeah, it's taking a couple people's time to get them the form, fill out the paperwork, okay it, get it all to Jason, make sure everybody knows. I don't think it's that big a deal, personally. It's people's time.
Yes, it's people's time, but we're the ones that made the requirement, so it's going to cause the time to be taken. I'm just asking. I mean, my first was $25. I want to have a cooler at a family reunion. You know, we want people using the Central Park. We don't want it to become a party place. No. But I'm just sitting here thinking for a...
It'd be the event, it wouldn't be per person that brings the cooler, it would be the event itself.
I think not only the paperwork, but Dave's on probably the right track here. We got cleanup involved with Shane. We'll have to go in there later on. I can't believe people are going to use the park and then clean it up like it was. There's going to be a mess somewhere.
But I think it's like that for a family, a picnic, family picnic. I don't know. You're thinking with the alcohol, it's going to be messier or not as picked up, whatever.
Absolutely.
I don't think we're going to profit from it, let's put it that way.
I think the $25 is reasonable.
That's all we have, Mayor.
Okay, with that discussion, would anybody like to do that resolution?
Motion to approve resolution 2021-74 to amend the fee schedule.
First and second, any further discussion?
I do have one other thing.
Okay.
Does this also include, like, we talked about the sand volleyball? Is that per night, or would that be like for their league? They would pay a $25 fee.
It's per permit, so if the permit encompasses the season, then it would just be the $25.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Aye.
Tell?
Aye.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Jones?
Aye.
Teagues?
Aye.
And Coleman?
Aye. And with that, it looks like we just need a motion to close the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That'll be a record for us.
Did you say we're in?
No, we don't.
No, I said-
Oh, okay,
No.
okay, just,
No, no.
I missed that. Okay,
Nope.
thank you.
Nope, we're adjourned.
Sorry.
All right.
Okay.
Just said adjourned.
You smell that. It's water.
I know, but that was
It's
perfect.
water.